folks, and welcome to another edition of the Pilot Review Show. I am Captain Blade J52, and I am joined by my merry cohort, the RP hologram of the hour, Artie.
Hello.
Not too terribly much to get through this week for you guys. Been kind of a really slow week, aside from the introduction of the event, but the few little things that we do have are pretty significant, and we do kind of want to get through those for you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, first and foremost, we have the return of the Crystalline Entity, and it's a slight little bit of backstory that we have with the blog here. Now, the big thing that we have is this is a new 14-day event. With this, you can see some of the bits they're talking about with the conversion, and the reward we have is the Black Ops Mine Launcher. And there's essentially two types of mines you can get out of this mine launcher. You can get the Blackout Mines. Kinetic damage dealt by one of these explosive devices resonates with enemy shields, gaining increased damage based on the target's current shield percent. The higher they are, the harder these hit. They can briefly hold targets in the impact zone as well. And then we have the Blade Mines. These vicious mines will repeatedly attempt to bore along the hull of enemies, causing physical damage over time before detonating after a fixed period of time to deal kinetic damage to enemies in the blast area. Now, this is an account-wide unlock. You only need to run it for 14 days, or if you purchase the little pack with Zen, you can skip about 10 days worth of grind, and you'll also get yourself an ultimate tech upgrade to boot. Now, I know you and I were actually discussing these mines a little bit from your perspective, good sir, so what are your thoughts on this thing?
So my initial thoughts about it, about the Black Ops mines, were skeptical because I ran with a very high-end version of the quantum mines, and those worked out fairly well. You know, damage times 4 with damage/damage, so the best damage you can get from that kind of mine. But it's given me a little bit to test out the Black Ops mine. They don't work like for if you're going into an enemy field and you're just going to drop mines just to drop mines to have them in the way. Don't exactly work in that general sense. So I felt like that you actually had to get in close and drop as many as you could on top of the enemy and then leave, instead of just leaving a trail of them like you would with normal mines. So slightly different mine lane style, but still an actual common use of the mines, like using the dispersal pattern Omega, where you just drop like 8 mines all at once. So, yeah, this is along the lines of, it's great in a swarm instead of having them as a bottleneck kind of minefield. Because they're essentially, you know, with the blade mines are essentially their own little pets, I guess you can say. Not like hanger pets or anything, but they just go and attack until they blow up after a while. So, they're all right.
Okay.
It still does have, since it's still very early on, they will have to be tested a little bit more, but for epicked out, fairly decent for damage and all that. Very nice.
Alrighty. Well, you heard it from the horse's mouth, as we say. You know, he's got a bit more experience with the mines than I do at the moment. I won't be getting mine until, I think, Tuesday is when I get mine. I'd have to look before I can tell you guys. But I look forward to testing them out. I'm not the greatest mine guy ever, but I like to plink around with them sometimes. So definitely check that out, folks. Be sure to get that. And also, the other big thing is you could progress your ship coupon progress along with this event. For this particular weekend at the time of recording is a double experience weekend for this, so you can get double the ship coupon progress and work towards being able to claim a tier 6 ship of your choice. So be sure to check that out, folks. Now, the next big thing we have is our patch notes for the 6th. A lot of this is just bringing in the event. The biggest thing here is the event changes that they were talking about, where they were going to unify the currencies. But, and we'll talk about that in just a minute, but is there anything in particular that stands out to you, good sir?
A few things, actually. With the with the event, I don't know if many people noticed this, but the events that they had like already slotted and had maybe a few things, a few points put into it to get whatever that event was, but wasn't able to complete it. I'm just happy to announce that auto completed. At least like Crystalline Cataclysm into the First Contact Day, Kobayashi Maru, Mirror Universe Invasion, and Home Tech Arena. So I was excited by that because I had plenty of characters that needed to get them, and I was not able to really spread my time out enough just to run the event multiple days. So with that just boom done, I don't have to worry about that. Now I can just worry about the next event. And so it's actually clearing up my event tab. Another thing is that they've changed the sidekick level on New Romulus to 50, so that's actually helped out quite a little bit to actually get a bit of a boost to damage and whatnot while on New Romulus, instead of having to more or less deal with the weird level cap. Hoping that actually stays a little bit longer and we actually get stuff with that. Like some of the other locations that are in similar settings.
Alrighty. But one little thing that we can mention as far as bugs go is there was some projects that didn't autocomplete that actually were supposed to have done so. And I do know they were looking into that. So if you're somebody that had previous Crystalline projects, anything from Into the Breach, the First Contact Day, Kobayashi Maru, Mirror Invasion, or Sompek Arena, and it did not autocomplete, then do let us know. We'll make sure that the devs are made aware of this and whatnot. Or if you know anybody that does, feel free to have them get up with us, make a post on the forum. We'll make sure that the devs see it and are aware of it. Now, I wanted to take a minute to actually talk about the event store changes, and I guess the homogenization, to some extent, is the word I'm looking for here, or more of a universalizing of some of the event currencies, because this is one that has been a bit controversial to some people because of the way it was done. You've got some people that they like it because now they've only got to worry about the one currency, and if, say, this current Crystal Cataclysm, let's say they miss it, then all they have to do is wait till the next featured TFO runs around, and they can grab, maybe a few marks extra, slap it in there, and they're good to go. Some folks have hated it because, as well, now all of their old currencies got deleted, and there was not really anything, no trade-in or anything of that matter. And I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on this, good sir.
Well,
could be good or bad.
Oddly enough, I don't have a real feeling one way or the other. I'm just that was about it. I wasn't
just kind of could take it or leave it, huh?
I wasn't.
That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly valid. Oh, for me, I'm kind of glad that they're doing this, because if you're somebody like me, you've got a boatload of tunes and everything, because I actually had quite a few of these projects laying around, I'll be honest with you. I had at least, I would say, 15 of these old projects laying around across my account that I'd picked up over the years. Some of them I may have been working on it, and then real life happened, or
Weren't able to
something
complete
else
it,
happened, and I couldn't complete it. And this is good because now if something like that happens, let's say I stop, let's say something happens, God forbid, and I'm pulled away by real life, and I'm only at, say, 9 out of the 14. Well, now when the new one rolls around, I just take a few extra tokens, I plop it into this, and I can pick it up. So it does suck that there was no trade-in for some of the currencies. I would have liked to have at least seen that much happen, because I think that I could kind of see why some people see that as a slap in the face, yet at the same time, I think it's going to be a lot better now that we actually have it in our hands and it's a lot more universalized, if that makes sense. But
I'm just wondering, like, will this be the starting point for a complete universal mark system, or is this just going to be nope, just for this? All the other different projects and whatnot will have their own mark like we currently have, so we don't suddenly have, oh yeah, you have EC, have dilithium, and now you have marks. No, you still have to have the many different marks, because within some different differentiate marks, then you can just do whatever and it would be chaos.
I don't know that I would say it's going to be a universal mark system, which that is actually a point that some people have brought up. I don't know that I would say they're going to go that far with it. I would say for the events, it's going to be a universal marks type of system, because for the events it makes sense. If you miss the Crystalline Cataclysm, then you're looking at, prior to this change of course, you're looking at, in some cases, 6 months to a year before you were able to finish it again. Whereas now, okay, say you missed 3 days on the last one. Okay, you wait for the next featured TFO to roll around, and boom, there you are. You're good to go. You've got it finished, and you can work on your current one. But, like I say, I don't know that they're ready to go to complete universal marks yet. Maybe down the road, they might entertain something like that. I hope they don't, to be honest.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that goes, I guess.
I guess we'll have to wait until we get to, 20 different reputations and,
Maybe.
4 different event, 4 different events. You got summer, winter, the, 14-day, and then, I don't know, something else altogether.
Yeah. Which, we'll see, I guess. But, anyways, that's what we have for articles this evening. Like we said, not really a lot here, but what we had is significant. So, yeah. But, like always, we do have a budget build for you guys this week, and one of the things we do have is, this actually came about at the request of somebody from our Armada, or at least my Armada, and this is something we wanted to hook him up with. And if I could remember how to buttons. So, he's somebody that he likes the Arbiter, and I know we've done budget builds over this ship in the past, but he's somebody that really enjoys the ship, he likes it, and he wanted to make it his main ship, so, okay. We figured, what can we do in order to get him up to snuff? What's something we can do to help him get his foot in the door? Now, he doesn't really have a lot of reputations to work with, so you're not going to see a lot of the normal reputation gear on here. You might see a couple of pieces here or there, but that's it. His highest reputation, I think, was a Tier 3 Dyson, but don't hold me to that. But, anyways, he has the Fleet Arbiter battle cruiser, and with a ship like the Arbiter, it's one that can operate similar to an escort or a cruiser. It's kind of in that middle ground. It's not complete cruiser, but it's not complete escort either. So it's more of a, almost a destroyer, I guess you could say, is what I would classify it as. So, for your weapons, it's a 5-3 layout. You have 5 weapons in the front and 3 weapons in the back. Now, since we don't have access to any of the rep disruptors yet for him, we had to kind of source some of them out a little bit. And figure out where we could pick them up. Now, on the Federation side at the moment, we couldn't really find a good source of quality disruptors to use, so 4 of our disruptors on the build we actually had to pick up from the exchange. Thankfully, we were able to find some of those on the cheap. Now, for the forward weapons, we have the Nausicaan Beam Array, as well as the Nausicaan Energy Torpedo. So this is a torpedo that's going to do disruptor damage, but still behave like a torpedo. Then we have 3 of our standard disruptor beam arrays. These are just random purples that we picked up off the exchange for about 200k a pop. Then, in the rear of the ship, we have our resonant disruptor beam array. We have another standard disruptor, and then we have the Martok Omni. Now, there are some set bonuses that are going to come heavily into play here, but we'll look at those in just a minute. Then, for his shields, his engines, deflector, and warp core, since he didn't have access to the Bajoran Interceptor, he can't use the 4-piece Bajoran set at the moment. However, he can use at least 3 pieces of this. This is going to boost his disruptor damage a good bit based off of the 2-piece, since he wants to actually go for more numbers. Since he doesn't have access to the Bajoran core yet, we went with the Temporal Face Overcharged. This is a staple core of ours that we use quite a bit here on the show for budget builds, because in our opinion, it is very hard to beat this core at the budget level. Now, this particular warp core will cut your bridge officer cooldowns in half for the duration that the warp core is active. So that's a very potent set bonus that you could pick up. Now, as far as devices go, we always like to think of those as personal preference here on the show. However, there are some ones we do like to recommend to people, such as the Subspace Field Modulator, which will give essentially a neutronium alloy worth of resistance while it's active, as well as a significant amount of defense rating, making your ship harder to hit. And there's also energy amplifier batteries, weapon batteries, Gemini hardpoints, quite a few things like that. Now, for his consoles, he has 5 engineering, 2 science, and 4 tactical. Since this is, if I could words, the fleet version of the ship, he's been able to pick up a 2nd science console once he upgraded from his regular ship. Now, you'll notice, first and foremost, we have the ablative hazard shielding. This is our console that came with the ship. Gives a nice bit of shielding and some temporary HP to work with. A very potent "oh crap, I'm going to die" button that can be used on the Arbiter or any ship. Then we have our assimilated module. While he didn't have that much in the way of reputations, he did at least have rank 2 on quite a few of them, so he had access to a few of the reputation consoles. In this instance, we have the assimilated module, which is going to give a little bit of critical chance and severity, as well as a little bit of control expertise. And we have the hydrodynamics compensator from the 8472 rep. Now, this is going to be here mainly to complete the 2-set bonus with the multi-conduit energy. Now, we have, for his other consoles, the Trillium deplating. This is going to give a fair chunk of resistance as well as shield capacity just by having it on the ship, and is basically a field generator and a neutronium alloy armor slammed into one thing. Next, we have our House Martok console. This is going to give a pretty decent all-around amount of stats. You've got a bit of turn, a bit of hull cap, a bit of shield cap, and is a fairly great kind of a catch-all console on its own if you need general stats and a bit of turn and everything. But it also rounds out our 2-piece bonus with our House Martok beam array. Then for our science consoles, we have the Nausicaan Siphon Capacitor, which is going to round out our 3-piece with the Nausicaan set, and we also have our Temporal Disentanglement Suite. This is going to give a nice chunk of critical chance and severity based on our Ox power, as well as a nice bit of shield capacity and a bit of shield damage resistance. Finally, rounding out our sets and rounding out our consoles, we have two of the Disruptor induction coils. These are the tactical consoles specific to disruptors. And we also have our harmonic resonance relay. Getting a little ahead of myself there. And then the multi-conduit energy relay. So these are consoles that can be picked up very easily just by doing missions. And our multi-conduit rounds out our two-piece with the hydrodynamics compensator. Now to begin with our set bonuses. Now with our two-piece bonus, this is the main reason we wanted to have the Bajoran set. We went with 3 pieces because it's still a great set and will help him get his foot in the door and give a bit of survival at the same time, while leaning more towards the DPS side of things. Then for our multi-conduit and our hydrodynamics compensator, this is going to give a 7.5% Cat 2 bonus to several energy types, but especially his disruptors in this case. That is fairly significant, as for a Category 2 bonus, when it says it gives 7.5%, it really means 7.5%. So it's buffing everything as a whole and not just the base values of the items like a Cat 1 bonus would do. So fairly significant. Then we have our Noskin set, which is going to give some nice bonuses, including that Disruptor Hold that can be procced, but most of all it's going to give a lot more Disruptor damage just by having the 3-piece. And then finally we have our House Martok configuration, which is going to give some other nice bonuses as well. Then moving on to our skill tree, this one is slightly different than our standard setup. Now for those of you that want a more in-depth explanation as to why we have the certain bonuses that we do, or the certain skill setup that we do, we have a video for you guys out there that you can check out. Now, for those of you that just want to copy something and go for a build like this, you can see our points breakdown here. And it's a 14 engineering, 14 science, 18 tactical. And you can see our lieutenant level skills, lieutenant commander, commander rank skills, and our captain and admiral. Well, it's supposed to have been different, but the 2 points that were in EPG were supposed to be in scientific readiness. I apparently forgot to make that little change in the builder. But anyways, basically, essentially our standard loadout, except for a minor difference of 2 points. But for specializations, we went with Intelligence Primary and Miracle Worker Secondary. This is going to give him a bit of knockdown power, or a fair significant chunk of knockdown power, while balancing that out with a little bit of survival, because we don't want the ship to become a glass cannon on him. Then coming over here to our traits, this is where we kind of had to be careful how we budgeted and everything. Now, we have first and foremost our beam training. This is going to be free beam damage based on just having it slotted. Then we have our fleet coordinator for free damage based on how many people are in the party. A 2% minimum up to a 10% maximum. And it does count you in that. We have elusive for free defensive value, making the ship harder to hit. Now, we have the good day to die trait because he is a tactical officer. Now, this is a trait that he had specified he already had access to, so he wanted us to include it in the build, and naturally I don't blame him. Now, this is exclusive to tacticals, and it allows tactical officers to use their go-down fighting at any hull level. Now, normally this would be a pretty pricey thing to include in a build, but since he already had it, we figured, why not put it to use? Then we have our last-ditch effort, which is another career-specific trait for tacticals. This is the one you get for free, and it doubles the amount of resistance that your outgoing weapon attacks grant while under the effects of go-down fighting. Now, if you're not a tactical captain, but you would like to use the build, swap out these career-specific traits for some of your own, and you will be doing quite well. The next thing we have is our nanite repair matrix. This is going to give a nice little heal when we drop below 50% strength on hull. Then we have the point blank shot for a bit of free category 2 damage based on how close you are to the target up to a certain maximum. We have projectile training to buff his torpedo a little bit, because the torpedo is going to be able to double dip a little here. It's going to be able to dip into things that buff projectiles, since it is fired like a projectile, and also disruptor-specific boosting abilities. To round out his captain traits, we have the redirected armor plating. This is going to give a nice chunk of damage resistance when shot from behind or on the sides. For his space traits, we have the emergency weapon cycle, which is going to give a nice power cost reduction and firing cycle haste whenever we activate our emergency to weapons. We have best defense, which grants a hull healing effect along with the normal effects of our attack patterns. Predictive algorithms will be able to be picked up from intel, which is going to give a nice accuracy buff there, which can counteract some of the firing mode penalty to things like fire at will. And then finally, to round out our money traits, which is where the last bit of our EC went, we were able to pick up a copy of Honored Dead for him for only 1.2 million. So it used pretty much all of our EC this time around for our bare bones budget, but we were able to get him a fair collection of traits. Now, since he didn't have too high of abilities yet, we went for some of the lower tiered ones. We have the advanced target systems for free severity, the precision for the free critical hit chance. The energy refrequencer is going to round out a bit of healing for him and help keep him alive. And then we have the chronocapacitor array for a cheap bit of bridge officer cooldown reduction. Now, he doesn't have any active reputations yet because he's not reached tier 5 on any reps. He will eventually get there, however. But finally we come to our bridge officers, and this is where the ship comes together. Now, for this particular ship, it has a Lieutenant Commander Universal, an Ensign Tactical, a Lieutenant Commander Tactical / Intel, a Commander Engineering, and a Lieutenant Science. Now, this particular user had said he wanted to do damage, but he had also had some issues with survival, so we kind of tried to balance that out a bit here. For Commander Engineering, we have an Engineering Team 1 to heal the hull a bit, purge viral matrix type effects, Emergency Power to Engines 2 for a nice little oh crap I'm gonna die, get the heck out of Dodge type of thing. Then we have our Emergency Power to Weapons 3, which is going to buff our weapons a good bit and give some extra damage while it's active, as well as popping our emergency weapon cycle trait. And then finally, to round out our engineering powers, Reverse Shield Polarity 3, which is going to recharge our shields based off of incoming damage and can be used to recharge your entire shield capacity in a pinch based off of the incoming damage and redirecting the shield facings. Now, the next thing we have are the tactical seats, and we didn't use any intel powers this go around because he is a bit of a newer player, and we didn't want to completely overload him. Now, for this particular build, we have our Tactical Team 1, which is going to redirect the shields in a pinch, as well as redirect them automatically, I should say, and also give some other nice buffs. We have Attack Pattern Beta, which is going to allow him to debuff the enemies that he shoots at. And then we have a Fire at Will 3, which is going to let him smack anything in range with a beam. And then, to take advantage of our Nausicaan torpedo, we have a Torpedo Spread 1. Then for our Lieutenant Science, we have a Science Team 1 to recharge the shields a bit, as well as purge some nucleonic effects. We have Hazard Emitters 2 for some healing over time, as well as a slight bit of damage reduction while it's active. Then, to round out our final powers, we have the Lieutenant Commander Universal, which we've made into a science seat. We have the Polarized Hull, which is a nice damage reduction and will let him get out of things like tractor beams fairly easily. We have Transfer Shield Strength 2, which can recharge the shields in a pinch when need be and give a bit of healing. And then finally we have a Gravity Well 1, which will give him a little bit of control and ways to group up enemies to make them easier to kill. As far as our notes went, you can see here we used all of our 2 million EC, not something we normally do, since he doesn't have any reps that have hit tier 6 yet. He's paying the full 15k per console. He only has 2 rep consoles that we used in this case, which are the assimilated module and the hydrodynamics compensator, which you're looking at about 30,000 dilithium to build, or roughly 4 days build time, assuming only one of his tunes is refining dilithium per day. So that's what we have for our budget build this evening. Any questions, thoughts, or comments, good sir?
Actually, no. It looks well-rounded, full-on disruptor, so it's makes sense for a lot of DPS and whatnot. The devices are obviously varied, so I would recommend armor catalyst as well as the weapon battery, but that's about it. But besides that, no, it looks very well-rounded. It looks like it was set perfectly for what he's looking for, at least starting out, obviously, since it's bare bones.
Yep. And we will be working with him sometime in the future as well, once he gets a little more comfortable with the ship, once he gets a little bit more resources to work with, and we may revisit this build sometime down the road. But anyways, that's what we've got this evening. As far as this stuff goes, not a lot to our show this week. Not really a lot going on, to be honest. But we did want to touch base on the significant stuff that we did have happening, and just kind of go from there, really. But maybe we'll have more going on this next week. We'll kind of see. I know I'm looking forward to seeing, hopefully, more information about this thing that's going to change the face of the game they've been talking about. And I'm sure you are too, good sir. But, anyways, folks, this is the Pilot Review Show. We hope you've enjoyed our show this evening. On our way out, a shout out to our good friends over at the Temporal Armada. A very cool bunch of people. Be sure to check out their program as well. Shout out to our other good friends over at the Kurtang Pirate Radio. The party is there. And they've got a good bunch of music playing all the time, so you never know what you're going to get. Something for everybody there. But if you guys feel that you need help with your ship and everything, you're not really sure what you want to do, everything, we do take requests for budget builds. We typically work within 3 different levels, though we do custom budgets upon request, typically the bare bones or the mid-range or even the higher end types of budgets. You know, let us know, hey, this is the ship I've got to work with, this is about where I'm at, this is the resources I've got, I want to be a space wizard, or I want to be a damage dealer, or I want to be more of a tank, and hook you up with a build. If you think that your gear and your setup's in order and it's your piloting that needs a little bit of work, then get a brief little video clip to us of your piloting, record yourself piloting, and we'll offer tips and tricks on how to improve, and potentially even run a couple of missions with you if necessary to help you get everything down pat. Now, if you have any bugs, feel free to let us know, because we don't like bugs, and neither do the devs, and you know, as a bug hunter, I pass those straight along to them, and I can guarantee that they will be seen by the appropriate people. You know, if you have any requests for the RP Corner, feel free to let Artie know. He does take requests, and he might just talk about your topic on air. Could be as simple as, how do I handle this event, or what's your thoughts on this type of character? And might come up with something good for you. But for now, folks, we hope you've enjoyed our show. Say not really a lot going on this week. Maybe more will be going on this next week, but I guess we'll kind of see. But for now, folks, this is the Pilot Review Show, reminding you to have your triples spayed or neutered. Goodbye, everybody.
See ya.